Okay. I'm John Yembrook with NASA Public Affairs. Today and tomorrow is the social event. For those who don't know what a NASA social is, those people watching on television, probably everyone in the room knows, it is an event where we pretty much ask people that are following us on social media to come out to one of our NASA facilities and get kind of behind-the-scenes access to what we're doing at NASA. And what that means is you're kind of seeing facilities and meeting people that other people in the world don't really get a chance to do. If we can invite every single person in the United States to come out and see firsthand what NASA's doing, we would love to do that. Unfortunately, that's not possible. The media has been telling our story for 50 years. Now you're helping tell our story. People around the world on social media, those people here today, you're going to be tweeting and posting with the things you're seeing here today. Hopefully the people following you will see it and get inspired and learn a little bit about what we're doing. So this is the reason why we do these, and the theme for this one is NASA and commercial spaceflight. So, and of course we have SpaceX launch attempt tomorrow, their first test flight to try to berth with the International Space Station. So this is a big milestone for commercial. On December 2010, they had their first orbital flight. SpaceX did, and of course now we're trying to actually rendezvous with the space station, which is an amazing feat to try to do, and it's really a game changer to what we traditionally thought of as humans and cargo flying in space. So congratulations, SpaceX, for the attempt. It's quite a feat. So we're going to be talking about that, of course. We're going to be talking about the International Space Station. We're going to be talking about some of the work being done right here at Kennedy Space Center. And hopefully people have questions here in the room that they can share with our audience here on NASA television. So this is a NASA social. I'm sorry, some people are like, what is exactly NASA social? Wasn't that like a tweet up before? And so earlier this year, we changed NASA social to NASA tweet up. And there was some backlash, I'll be honest. Some people were like, well, why would you change it? It's working, and tweet up is good. And so, so there was some backlash about it, the fact going from NASA tweet up to NASA social, excuse me. And the reason for that, I think, is just people were comfortable. There was a community that built. They understood the hashtag. They understand their world. And Twitter is really easy to build communities in, I think. It's a lot easier to interact with each other. A lot of Facebook pages, for example, are closed. So people were asking, why are you doing this? It didn't quite click with them. And the only answer I can really give you is the world is in communications and social media is evolving. And it's not necessarily this was to incorporate things right now, but the idea is we want to stay hungry. We want to kind of embrace new technologies. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, if you think about it, 5 years ago, the way we communicated as a species was different than it is today. The platforms you're using and you're communicating on today, those weren't around, or some of them were around, these technologies, but they weren't widespread like they are today. In 5 years, I mean, it used to be a time where people would gather around the television set and they'd watch Walter Cronkite. The whole family would sit there and watch it, and they got their news from a single source. Maybe they got a newspaper. Maybe it was 2 sources. I mean, how many sources do you guys get your information from every day now? I mean, think about that. And before that, it was, people were using, Pony Express, and they were going around the radio before that, and people, communicating via written material. I mean, I was reading a book on the Civil War, and it was amazing to me that, the war had ended and people were still fighting and dying. And it's like nowadays, it's like I can tweet something and someone out of Mongolia can read that in seconds. And that's what the amazing thing is. That's why we're doing this, and that's why we're changing it. And we're going to keep looking at new venues, new platforms, new ways to tell our story, to reach as many people as possible, to really understand what NASA does. So that's kind of the little background of what it is exactly. And then I want to just give you a quick background of what we do, why NASA is on social media. And so we have, as most of you know, we have over 2 million followers on Twitter, for example. We're getting to 1 million likes on Facebook. We're getting involved in Google+. But this wasn't always the case. And I'm really proud of the fact that NASA was one of the first people to really embrace social media, especially for a federal agency, which usually does things much slower than the rest of the world. We jumped aboard really quickly. And I'm the acting social media manager for NASA right now, and I was doing an interview with a reporter, and one of the questions he asked me was, why did you start getting involved with social media? And I thought it was very interesting. I thought he was asking me specifically why I did. And I could have said, well, engaging a new audience and reaching a new community, but instead I said, well, my boss told me to do it. And he was a little shocked, but that's the truth, right? That was the answer. management here at NASA really saw how important this was. And public affairs officers like me, who grew up writing press releases, faxing them out to reporters, doing interviews, didn't see the value. And there was just one more thing I had to do. And frankly, I didn't really like it. It was like another task that I had to think about on top of everything else. So what would you do? What was I doing? I was, taking information and posting it on social media, just like I was doing anything else, like posting things to the web. So what turned me around, and this is what I told the reporter, what really turned me around was, I remembered very specifically, I was doing this part of my job, and it was during the STS-125 mission, which was the last service mission to the Hubble Space Telescope. And what happened there was I was doing my job, I was posting stuff to the web, I was writing news releases, and all of a sudden, I was posting things on to Twitter. And what it was I was posting was like, the Space Shuttle Discovery will dock at 8:55 a.m. Follow us live on nasa.gov, www.nasa.gov/ntv, that sort of thing. So that's how I was doing. That was my basically putting information out there. And I was just then going on to something else. Well, I decided I was going to check to see what people were doing with information I was sending. And all of a sudden, I got amazed at what I was reading. I actually never really paid attention that people were sharing and retweeting this stuff. I didn't quite get it. And that moment, I started really getting into it. People were saying, oh my God, it was during the workday. I go, oh my God, I can't go back to work now. I mean, this is what's happening here. If you remember that shuttle mission, there was a lot of crazy things happening. There was a lot of real-time problems with the spacewalks that they had to work through. And the amazing thing that happened was I got addicted to it. All of a sudden, someone asked a question, I'm like, oh, I know the answer, and I can start writing about it. And they were actually engaged, and I didn't realize it was a conversation we were supposed to be having with the people on social media. And all of a sudden it clicked why this was important. All my life I've been communicating with reporters, and now I'm seeing people really loving and engaging what we're doing. It wasn't just about what went wrong on the flight, it was what went right. And all of a sudden I realized there's this whole world out there that we weren't really talking to directly that love what NASA's doing, that's inspired by what NASA's doing. And so I got to tell you, I became a zealot for social media after that, probably one of the biggest in the agency, and I'm really proud to be part of this team. And I got to tell you, really it's a team effort. Every field center has a social media lead. We have a team of 3 people at NASA headquarters doing it. And so it's kind of a crazy thing because there are so many accounts out there, and I'm sure many of you are following many of them, but NASA's doing a lot of amazing things. So, recently the other government agencies have been contacting us, asking us, like, what do we do? What are some of your best practices? And people asked us to speak, to talk about it. Well, really, I want to take credit sometimes, like, yeah, well, we started off doing this because we were really awesome and we saw ahead of everybody else. But the truth is, it's NASA. The information we're putting out there is cool. It's not, some agencies are going to have a lot harder time getting 2 million followers on Facebook, likes, million likes on Facebook and 2 million followers on Twitter if they're talking about some of the things that they're doing, services they're providing. It's not that they're not important, it just doesn't engage the audience and the community the same way that NASA does. So we have a really cool thing, and I think it's really relatable. We do heliophysics, you feel the sun every day. We look up the moon in the night sky, we have things orbiting the moon, we have Earth observation satellites talking, that's studying the planet and what we're doing here. We have a spacecraft that's finding new worlds in distant stars. We are doing things that really inspire people, and you guys are helping us tell that story, and this is why NASA is successful, and it's really partly the team, but partly the product and all the people that work throughout this agency. So that's why I got hooked on it. That's why I'm here today. I really want to ask a couple questions because I want to separate this. I know some of you are space geeks. We all did some introductions before we got started here, but I want to separate the space geeks from the uber space geeks. So some of these are going to be really easy. Raise your hand if you know the answer. Can I get a mic handler? A mic handler? Okay, the first question is, tomorrow's launch is, we keep saying COTS launch. Can someone tell me what COTS stands for? It doesn't work, doesn't have a connection to SpaceX, please, or NASA.
Commercial Orbital Transport System.
Okay, that's exactly right. Thank you. We're going to get a little trickier. So SpaceX, they launched a secret payload in their first orbital flight, a secret payload. Does anyone know what that secret payload was? Not you.
Was it cheese?
It was cheese. So yeah, all the questions get a little trickier. There's a mascot for one of our missions. It's a rubber chicken. Does anyone know what the mission is and what the mascot's name is?
It's the Solar Dynamic Observatory, and the mascot is Camilla.
It's Camilla. Camilla's been to almost space, I think. Went up on a balloon recently. So, on June 5th, there's going to be a celestial event happening that you can see around the globe. Can anyone tell me what that event is going to be? I see the same hands going up.
That'd be the transit of Venus.
Transit of Venus, yeah. And transits, at Ames Research Center, I got to put up a plug here. We have the Kepler mission there, which detects planets and distant stars using a transit method. So that's kind of a cool little factoid, those who didn't know it. Can anyone name the astronaut that Wolowitz on The Big Bang Theory was flying to the space station with?
That was Astro Mike Massimo.
That's right, Mike Massimino. Thank you. And I have one last question for you before I turn over to our first speaker. Can someone here tell me all 10 NASA field centers? Name all 10 NASA field centers.
I hope I don't bungle this. We'll do it geographically. Kennedy, Houston, Ames, JPL. Does Dryden count?
Yes.
Dryden, Glenn, Goddard. Ooh, I'm missing some. Stennis. And Langley.
I think you missed one. Is that right? Did she miss one?
Wallops.
One more. No, the Wallops is not a test facility.
Oh, yeah. Give me a hint.
They build rockets there.
DC.
They build rockets there.
Huntsville, of course.
Marshall
Space
Flight
Flight
Center.
Center.
That's exactly right. Thank you. That is our Uber space geek right there. It was very, very impressive. I have trouble with it sometimes. So let me introduce our first speaker today. We're really honored to have Gwen Shotwell with SpaceX. She's the president of SpaceX. Thank you for joining us, Gwen.
So you have to go easy on me. I'm a social virgin. Meaning I've never done this before. So I definitely prefer interaction rather than me just blabbing away, but apparently I was told to blab away for a little bit, so I'll do that. So flights, 4:55 a.m. tomorrow morning, hopefully, knock on wood. Be, if successful, really historic. A company taking a spacecraft to the International Space Station. Only a few nations have done it, or unions. European Union, Russia, Japan, and of course the United States. So we're kind of odd to be in that company. We are carrying cargo, which is great. We weren't originally going to. And we said, come on, we're going to be there. Let us carry some stuff. Luckily, we didn't put anything in that rots because we've been waiting. So I don't believe there's any surprise payloads this time, but there will be next time for sure. And I could be wrong. It's not like the president knows everything. Maybe there is a secret payload on board. Then I'll be surprised too. So actually, that's what I have to say. I mean, I've got a bazillion things to say, but I'd really rather have you guys tell me what you want to hear. So how do we do this? You.
Here, I want to wait for the mic.
Oh.
Sorry. If this goes well, when do you plan on sending humans up?
We would tomorrow. No. So we're right in the middle of a procurement for a commercial crew program. If we were to win, we should start doing crewed test flights in 2 years. Yeah.
Question?
Come on, you guys aren't shy. I know you're not shy.
Here you go.
Recently, Story Musgrave had some less than flattering remarks about the lack of direction of NASA, and unfortunately, he also included SpaceX. I was wondering if you'd seen those comments or had any response to them.
You know, I've seen a lot of negative comments. I've seen a lot of positive comments. I think what SpaceX and NASA are doing in partnership is nothing short of extraordinary. So I have absolutely no complaints about NASA. Frankly, I think some of the folks that are really critical of what we're doing together is sour grapes. That they're not doing these cool things too now. I'd really rather focus on the pot. There are people that are always going to despise what we're doing, and I don't focus on that. It's a shame that it comes up, especially when national heroes do it. But I think if these folks came to SpaceX and got to know us and saw the almost 1,900 people working there and seeing how hard they work and what we're trying to do, they'd change their opinion.
Thank you. I think the history is really cool here. I have a book with a 1946 photograph of Jack Northrop's Hawthorne plant complex. Can you tell us all a little bit of the history of how you ended up there, how roads were renamed, and how Elon Musk and Jack Northrop and all these kind of crazy pioneers do this in the same place and in the same way?
You know, that building is an extraordinary building. When it first came up for lease, we wanted it, but we couldn't afford it. It was about a year before we got the COTS award in 2006. We were really busting out of our facilities, our multiple facilities in El Segundo, California, and we saw that building. We wanted it, but it was just too expensive for us at the time. And then we won the COTS program, gave us enough kind of willpower to go try to get it, and a motor home company bought it, like 6 weeks before we could have gotten it. By the way, this is the recent history of that building. There's some real history associated with what was going on in that facility. And right before we were interested in getting it, they were building 747 airframes there. Now the facility has shrunk a bit, and they've moved that capability further west in that same complex. So we wanted that building, we lost it, and then we harassed these guys mercilessly to let us lease it from them. And so we've been pouring millions and millions of dollars into it ever since. If you guys are ever in the LA area, I'd love to give you guys a tour. It's a remarkable building. Is that enough? You want more? Too much? Okay.
I wanted to ask you about costs for commercial space travel and how you work with the companies that you're competing against to do effective space travel commercially.
So what was the question?
Basically, there are 5 companies who are effectively competing for these contracts.
Yes.
And this is supposed to be more cost effective. And I'm wondering how, for both NASA and for the companies that you're partnering with but yet competing against, how this works commercially and how it works in a cost-effective manner.
Well, we're partnering with NASA. We're not partnering with Blue and Boeing and Sierra Nevada. Did I miss one of them? Blue, Boeing, Sierra Nevada, us?
Yeah, there's one more. I can't remember.
So we're not partnering with them. We're in partnership with NASA. I do love the way this program has evolved, both the COTS cargo capability as well as the crew capability. We're just finishing up the second increment of the crew piece. We were not one of the CCDev 1 winners. We were a CCDev 2 winner, and what we're doing under that program is putting the concept together for all the crew accommodations in Dragon. We've made really great progress there. The inside of Dragon is pretty cool with 7 folks in it. And primarily focus on the launch escape system. What we decided during this process was we'd integrate those escape engines into the capsule. Makes so much more sense. You don't have to deploy that tractor tower, which is a critical event. You can't come back with it. So we really feel like our design is incredibly safe. We've avoided some of the pitfalls. We've been able to learn. That's really the benefit of doing space missions now, is you have the benefit of learning from 40, 50 years of development. It's why we can do what we're doing. And cost effective, every time people ask me, why am I so cheap, I always ask, why are you so expensive? You know, I don't...
I mean, it was supposed to be more cost-effective to do it this way. Do you find it more cost-effective to do it this way?
This is the only environment we've ever done development in at SpaceX, but I did spend 10 years of my career at Aerospace Corporation. Cost-effective is not part of their mantra. It's must work all the time. These are national security assets. You don't get a second chance on it. But, you know, taking risks in the development side, that doesn't mean cutting corners. But taking risks and going and testing And learning from testing is the best way, I think. So rapid prototype, get to test as fast as you can. You make mistakes on the test stand, but that's what you're supposed to do. And in the meantime, your engineers are designing and building and testing and blowing stuff up and learning from that and testing some more. And these are the best engineers on the planet, and I'm pleased to be working with them. Oh, sorry.
So this is a question from another Uber space tweet, DJ Flux. He wants to know if SpaceX will be hiring their own astronauts.
The first crewed flights will be with SpaceX astronauts, and that will probably be some combination of folks hired to do specifically that, as well as current employees that want to do it. I have just a really charming story to share with you guys briefly. When we first moved into the Hawthorne facility, Elon, we could all fit in the lunchroom that time, can't anymore. And Elon said, so who would, there's about 300 or 400 of us, who would fly on Dragon? And almost everybody stood up. And then who would fly on the first Dragon? And maybe 2 chickens sat down, right? But you've got about 1,900 people that want to be on Dragon, so it's going to be kind of a shove out.
Everybody here would also like
Okay. Send me an email.
No?
It's Gwen@spacex.com. It's super easy. More questions?
Can you talk a bit about a possible South Texas facility? We're from Texas, so having a launch facility close would be cool. And the partnership with Bigelow Aerospace?
We definitely need a commercial launch site. There's no question about it. The manifest that we have looking forward, starting in 14 and 15, will overwhelm, I think, both the Cape here as well as Vandenberg, which we've got a few flights from as well. So we really want a commercial site. We're looking at 4 or 5 possibilities here in Florida, Virginia, of course, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and South Texas. We're furthest along with Texas, but none of them will be easy. So it's going to take a while to figure out which in the end is the best choice. But we do need a commercial site, for sure.
What was
Oh, and Bigelow, partnership with Bigelow. Bob Bigelow has been a customer of SpaceX since 2006, actually. We'll fly a mission for him. And he's always been very candid about needing at least 2 providers, both on launch as well as capsules. He's a smart businessman, and he's not putting his eggs in one basket. We've kept the relationship pretty quiet in general, but given where we are, given the success of the Dragon flight in December of 10, and the progress that we've made on the commercial crew, we kind of jointly felt like it was time to go out and do some marketing, get some business for him.
I had a question. I'm really excited about the Falcon Heavy also, and because I'm from California, and I think that's going to go out of
First one to go from Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy. Any updates on when that possibility for timing?
We should have the first vehicle built this year or early next, and then we'll fly it as soon as we can get her off the deck next year. I would say probably mid 13, maybe an extra quarter or so. We're going to fly it next year. You know, I think you could probably see that vehicle fly from here. It's a gigantic vehicle. It'll be so great.
Yeah, with the launch that's coming up tomorrow, how extensive were the modifications on the landing pads for like the Falcon 9 rocket that's going off? Did you have to change it much? Or?
There were no changes to Falcon 9, not anything substantial. We always try to upgrade things as we go. The launch pad was already here.
Like, did you have to change that to fit or accommodate the rocket? Specifically?
No, for this flight, we didn't have any substantial accommodations. We are building some additional capability at the pad, so if you see construction out there, it wasn't to facilitate this next flight. It was just to upgrade the pad generally.
Okay.
But there were extensive upgrades to Dragon. This Dragon is capable of berthing. The last one was not, so it's got the common berthing mechanism. It's got the ProxOps, proximity operations sensors, and capability on board. It's got star trackers, much more sophisticated spacecraft. I believe all the same comms are there. I think we're flying a new flight computer, Curtiss-Wright versus an AI tech. So extensive upgrades. And this one's got solar. It's got solar generation capability. One of the first things we do when we separate, 9 minutes and 49 seconds into the flight tomorrow, we should deploy the solar arrays.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm a teacher, and there are students watching. So I just wondered if you'd like to make a comment to children and, the future of space and commercial development of space.
Well, definitely stay excited about space. Space is going to be it has been cool. It got a little boring, and now I think it's starting to gain traction again. I think anytime you can access something like space more broadly, it becomes far more appealing. And I think we're at the dawn of a new age here in space. And so my kids love space and dinosaurs, right? And I think all kids love space and dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are hard. Space, we're here to do that.
Could you mention some of the careers that students might be able to go into? Because they know about being an astronaut. They see that and they all want to be an astronaut. But not everybody will be an astronaut.
Yeah. Well, I'm an engineer, so I always promote the engineering piece. I think that's one of the coolest careers on the planet. An engineer gets to define how something works and create things. So I'm trying to get my daughter to be an engineer. I think she's going for it, which is amazing, because she started out, she wanted to be a teacher. Then she wanted to be a lawyer. And now I think she's going to be an engineer, which is awesome. So I promote engineering, a technology degree. Even if you don't want to be an engineer, it's a great educational foundation. It teaches you how to solve problems and create things.
Well, you are a female engineer, and that's yay. And some girls don't see that as a way for them, because they look at schools and see there are many gentlemen there. And so do you have
Although that's a good thing, right?
Yes, that is a good thing.
Go to school where they're boys.
We love our men. But for the girls out there, what words of advice about going into a field that is dominated by men?
Well, I didn't think I'd be an engineer either. I was a cheerleader in high school, and my mom, who's an artist, said, "Well, you should be an engineer." And I was like, "What?" And she took me to a Society of Women Engineers event, and I fell in love with the mechanical engineer that was talking. She had a great suit, fabulous shoes. She owned her own company. She was super intelligent. And that day, I was 15. I said, "Okay, I'll be a mechanical engineer." It was that flaky. That's how I became an engineer. And I went to Northwestern University, which doesn't sound like Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is like you're scared to death. 15-year-old girls don't want to go, or I didn't, and my friends didn't want to go to a place like that. So don't be shy or nervous about trying to go for something like that. It was really random for me, and it turned out to be a great accident. If you're good at something, pursue it. Doesn't matter what everybody else looks like while you're doing it or what anybody else says about it. Just do what you're going to do.
Thank you very much.
We have time for one more question after this. Any more questions? We have one more.
Okay, I remember hearing about SpaceX planning on sending astronauts to Mars eventually. I was wondering, are you guys going to continue pushing the traditional rocket design at what you guys have it as now, or try experimenting with other propulsion technologies and whatnot?
We're looking at some other propulsion technologies. That's really not my area. Elon really focuses on the technology drive. We're looking at electric propulsion, some different fuels as well. I know he was a little bit nervous in general about nuclear propulsion, but I think there's some stuff there to look at as well. Outside of that, like space elevators, and I don't think we're working on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Did you want to go, or you want to do after? Something after. Okay, we'll follow up. Okay. Listen, I really appreciate this. This was a great first experience at a social, and I hope you guys stay engaged. Thanks very much.
Never know which mic is on here. Please remember when questions are being asked to wait for the microphone before asking a question, because we are on television, so the people back at home couldn't hear you if you didn't have a mic in front of you. So just a reminder. We were talking about Hawthorne earlier. Can anyone tell me what superhero movie the Hawthorne facility was used in, where the evil lair was of the bad guys? Why is the same people always? No, you have not answered.
Well, it was Iron Man 2, wasn't it?
It was Iron Man 2. Very good. This useless trivia pops in my head all the time. Sorry about that. I want to introduce our next speaker. It is Ed Mango. He's in charge of the Commercial Crew Program here at NASA Kennedy Space Center. So without further ado, Ed.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing in Florida? It's a Chamber of Commerce day here. And tomorrow we'll have a Chamber of Commerce launch. Good luck to the SpaceX guys. They will do great. It's always good to fly to space station, and it's their first chance. And I think we're all very excited about it, and I know you guys are too. See, I came to talk a little bit more about the Commercial Crew Program, which is a next step in how we're going to get humans to low Earth orbit. And so that's what I'm here to talk about. As Gwen suggested, they are very interested in pursuing that kind of work in the future. So they are one of many companies that are pursuing that. Tomorrow is all about their cargo mission going to ISS, and I think they'll do great. And see, for Commercial Crew, one of our mottos is on the screen there somewhere. It says, "Same crew, new ride." Our goal in the end is to promote a capability to get U.S. astronauts to the International Space Station, and in the process create a commercial capability to get American systems to low Earth orbit. That's really what we're all about. And so in order to get started, I'm going to show a little video, see if this works. All right, well, we like high-energy videos. And over the next couple months, I'm sure we'll be putting out some more through our PIO folks. As you saw in that idea, we hope that some of that was like modeling and different animations, but by the middle of the decade, we hope to be flying those vehicles on orbit and to International Space Station. We have 4 funded partners today under CCDEV 2, which is the activity we're working today. Those partners are SpaceX, and SpaceX is doing very good. They just finished some crew trials not too long ago, and they've done very well with looking with NASA astronauts in their crew module and working through some of the activation and some of the accommodations they need to do for that. Very successful. Boeing, let's see, let me work through these charts here. Come over here and see. All right, Boeing just finished a number of parachute drops that they've done from the Nevada desert. Those were very successful. They did 2 drops to show how their parachute system worked, the drogue chute system will work, and also the landing bag system. Boeing's concept is to land on land, and so they need something to deal with the energy when they get down right to the surface, and so they have an airbag system that worked very well in this last drop. See, Sierra Nevada is our next group, and Sierra Nevada is off making what they call an engineering test article, which this is a picture of their test article. That test article will be flown a couple times over the next 6 months. The first is going to be in a few weeks, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks from now, and it's going to be a captive carry test in which we'll be flying it. They will be flying it in order to get some good data on their system and their aerodynamic part of the system, and then be ready to drop that as a free flight test later in the summer, probably late summer, early fall. And they're doing extremely well. They also have finished a PDR, their version of a PDR, which is a preliminary design review of their entire Dream Chaser system, and that's gone quite well. Boeing has also completed one not too long ago. See, next is Blue Origin. Blue Origin, I was just up in Seattle for a few days until this morning. They're working very hard on trying to get their spacecraft design. They're really at an earlier state than the others. They're at what's called an SRR, which is a systems requirement level kind of state. And they finished their SRR over the last couple days, and we're working comments with them over the rest of this week and into next week, and then we'll close out that SRR here in a few days. ATK is our next one, and you all know ATK built the boosters for the space shuttle system. Now they are integrating with, really to make it international, they're integrating with other companies around the world in order to make a new launch vehicle they're calling Liberty. And we worked with them on a number of areas on this new Liberty rocket, their requirements, their safety processes they would like to use, and their overall concept for design, and that's going quite well. They are unfunded, which means that they are bringing their dollars to the table. No government dollars are being used to help ATK at this point. NASA, I pay for the NASA folks to go help them. But basically, they're bringing their energy to the table. We're bringing ours, and we negotiate and talk about the requirements that way. And next is ULA. ULA is working very much with us, also unfunded. And they're working on their launch system. They're using an Atlas launch system, and they are working through their level of a systems requirements review in order to make their particular Atlas V human rating. And you got to do that very carefully because they fly a number of other missions for DoD and other customers. And so we can't make a whole new rocket. That'll be way too expensive. So we're trying to figure out ways in which we can use that rocket to fly. They would like to use that rocket to fly humans, and we're helping them work through that. And our last unfunded partner is Excalibur. And Excalibur is using a very old design and trying to put new systems in that design. And they're doing quite well. They are getting to what they call a conceptual review, and that will be coming forward here in the next month or so. They are also unfunded. The first four, like I talked about, SpaceX, Boeing, Sierra Nevada, and Blue Origin, are working under funded SAAs under CCDEV-2, and that's worth about $320 million that we're spending between the four companies. That's where we're at right now. In the future, we'll be entering into another round of SAAs here by the mid to late summer, and then into a contract for certification in a couple years. The goal is to fly by the middle of the decade, 2015, 2016, 2017 timeframe, in order to go fly a system to the International Space Station and allow our crews to rotate through an American-made system. Today, if you all remember, Soyuz launched the other day. They docked yesterday, and now we have 6 people back on station. Someday in about 4 or 5 years, we'll be using one of these systems in order to get our crew to keep that station manned at 6 or 7 people. So that's what I have prepared. I'll certainly answer your questions for as long as they let me. So questions? No questions. Wow. I'll let you think about that.
Questions?
Go ahead.
I got the mic. Okay.
How long is the International Space Station going to remain active?
Today, our agreement with Congress is that they're active till 2020. Of course, as we do more research on board station and that research comes back down to the ground and we can see what that means for the rest of us, then we'll probably think about, do we want to extend station? So at least 2020.
Yes, it's really exciting what you're doing. I wanted to put in a plug for NASA Technology Transfer. Can you speak a little about the Langley transfer on the Sierra Nevada design?
Yes.
For everybody here who might not be as aware of it as
yeah,
others.
Let me go back to that picture, maybe. Sierra Nevada is using, they call it the Dream Chaser, but its pedigree is from a program that NASA started many years ago called the HL-20. And and it's a very similar design. So one of the things that happens during a Space Act agreement, which is how we do our work with our partners, is that we both bring capabilities to the table, and then we work them together. It's a partnership versus a contract where it's a customer and a provider. In this case, it's a partnership, and within that partnership, they went and got the old data that HL20 used. They used the Langley folks to help with the aerodynamics of the system, because it is a winged vehicle. It'll fly, I want to say similar to a shuttle, but not too distant from what shuttle would fly like. And it lands on a runway, and so you have a lot of more aerodynamic issues you got to go work through in your design. And so they're doing that, and they're doing that highly with NASA centers. And in the case of these folks, they're doing it with the Langley Center.
More questions?
I noticed that you guys have begun a retrofit of the VAB, I think essentially since it was built for the Apollo program. And do you anticipate any of your vendors using it and Launch Complex 36?
Let's see, two questions there. As far as the VAB, I think there's someone might be coming up later to talk about the mods we're doing to the LC39 area. If any of the partners would like to use LC39, where shuttle flew out of, they are certainly welcome to do that. They work with the Kennedy Center and trying to work out an agreement about how to go use that particular space. From a programmatic standpoint, we help them, but that discussion is really between the center and the partner. And then we'll evaluate if that makes sense, if their timing is right, and what mods have to be done, and that kind of thing. And then we'll work with the other programs. Obviously, the VAB is also being used for SLS and Orion, so we have to make sure that what our partner might want to do won't interfere with what SLS and Orion need to do. And as far as LC36, that's a lot smaller pad, so I'm not sure if anyone will be using that for commercial crew. See, other questions?
Okay.
Could you talk a little bit about the goals? It seems like you have several different capsules and different systems.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be a combination of all when you actually start flying crews, or are you going to narrow it down to one or two?
Well, let's see. In the end, the more capability we can move into low Earth orbit, the better off the planet would be. So we have a mission to get to ISS. We also have a mission to try to help spur a commercial industry in space. In order to do that, we have multiple partners today, 7. In the next round, we want an integrated system, so it'll probably be less than 7 partners, because some of these guys will combine and that kind of thing. And so I imagine it'll be a lot less than 7. In the end, we would like to take as many as we taxpayers can afford into certification, and then look at services. When it comes time for services ISS, we'll probably have 1 or 2 in the end. But the point there is, if you go create the capability, then that capability can be used for other missions to low Earth orbit. For example, if you look at what happened during the tanker development back in the 50s and 60s with the KC-135, that was being used for the Air Force. And Boeing looked at that and said, well, maybe we can make that into a commercial airline. And they did. And because of that offshoot, McDonnell Douglas, or Douglas at the time, developed the DC-8. And Lockheed started developing their version. And so competition then was created by doing that. And that's the same kind of thing here. We are spurring a government need that will also help an industry grow, just like commercial airlines did, and jets. Other questions?
I was just going to follow up on that. Is this a lot like the model of the post office flying airmail with anybody who would carry it back in the old days as a way to get the aircraft and airline business going?
Yes, I've used that analogy before. Very good. In the old, if you look back at the history, it's so old it's new again. It's so old that we're rethinking it. In the post office era, at first the government bought airplanes and flew the airplanes around from point to point to move mail around, really from Washington to New York to Boston and Northeast. And used trains to go away west, right? And so over time, the government said, this is very difficult for us to go do. This is probably a market that the commercial world might want to go do. So then they turned it over and they sold contracts to people to go fly. and they were now privately owned airplanes that flew mail from point A to point B. As that went on, those private companies said, you know, we can carry mail today, we can carry passengers tomorrow. So then they started building models that would start being able to bring passengers as well as cargo or mail or whatever from point A to point B. And that's how the airline industry really got going. And it was the idea that the government had, that why make something only government when the technology is there, the capability is there, let's let industry go off and work it. And that's kind of the same model we're following. So how many of you want to fly in one of these vehicles? All right. Okay, good. All right, let me ask another question. I could ask questions too. Why does one person want to fly in one of these vehicles? What motivates you to want to go fly in one of these vehicles, the ISS or low Earth orbit?
Okay.
I want to see what the marble looks like from up there. Just
very cool.
Feel that peacefulness.
Very cool. I can relate to that. Sometimes when I talk about how, you know, if you look at it from a planet standpoint, you know, the crews have been on station, and the deputy for our program is Brent Jett, and he's an astronaut, flown 4 times, so he's seen the blue marble from 230 miles out. And it is incredible. And I think that would be incredible to see the planet, and you think, well, we are just one overall species on the planet that we should learn how to use the whole planet.
Well, I would want to fly so I could go to the moon, but I'm a teacher, and there are students watching out there, so I would like to ask a question for them, you know, for you to answer to them. A lot of people are thinking, a lot of the students are thinking there's no future for me in space because the shuttle era is over. That's what they know is the shuttle era. So what can you say to young people out there about the future of space exploration and their opportunities?
Oh, I think opportunities are abound, especially for the kids who are in school today. If you look at, in my mind, they're abound because if we dream it, it'll happen. First, we have to dream it. And these companies today are dreaming very different thoughts. I mean, if you look at a winged vehicle compared to this capsule, compared to what SpaceX is trying to do tomorrow, very different dreams with the same goal. And so they're dreaming it, and they're trying to make it happen. And I think that the next generation, the kids that are in school today, if they want to go do something, they can go do it. With the help of the country, obviously. But if you look at how much we spend on space and how much we're spending on what we're doing today, it's relatively a small amount of money in order to go get to low Earth orbit. Why go to space? Well, like this lady said here, it's to see that we are all on one planet. Also to go do research. You look at ISS and what it's capable of doing on research. Huge amount of research we can do on station. And that research isn't going to just end next week, next year, or with the astronauts we have today. It's going to end with scientists, not just astronauts, but scientists and engineers going to space station or going to other places in low Earth orbit to do the kind of research you need to do in low Earth orbit to help the people back on the planet. That is huge. You think about the medical fields that can go help, the bioengineering fields that can help with zero-G capabilities that then you can bring back to Earth. It's all about the people on Earth. And then, to me, that really can energize anybody, whether or not you want to be in the medical field, be in the engineering field, maybe work on rockets, be a technician and work on rockets. Very cool stuff. So there's lots of capabilities out there I think people can really get excited for.
Well, what would be one piece of advice you would have students, children who are interested in pursuing a career in space? What should they do now? They're like, my kids are 7 and 8 years old.
Well, see, it's a good age to start thinking about some of that stuff. First of all, I would be very good at math and science. Math and science is very important, and not everyone is good at math and science. All right, so if you're not good at it, it's okay. But you can learn some of that stuff, and there's other opportunities that are not just math and science. But if you're math and science, I think that helps. The other thing is, when I was 7 and 8 years old, we were landing on the moon. All right, and I sat in front of that TV. All the cousins were there with the aunts and uncles, all sat in front and watch Walter Cronkite talk about walking on the moon, and that inspired me. I want to do something like that. At that point, I wanted to be an astronaut, obviously, because that's all you saw was the guys walking on the moon. But for me, I then got very interested in every space mission after that. I would bug my teachers in junior high, as I went into junior high, to show, put it on the TV, to show that what are they doing? Aren't they launching today? Aren't they going to the moon today? And walking, and the teachers say, "Arr," and they go turn on the TV, and of course they'd be teaching history or English, and I'd be stared at what they're doing on board or what they're doing in space. So if you're always interested in that, it kind of keeps that interest going. And there's lots of things. Yeah, today we're not flying people on U.S. rockets, but there are 6 people on space station today, and there's all kinds of feeds on the NASA websites that talk about what they're doing on station every day. So that kind of interest keeps things going.
I always think beyond, I know you want to go on, beyond math and science, they need to work as a team and learn how to get along with others. I think that's a key thing.
Absolutely. Everybody, all these teams here, all these groups that are working with us today have teams. They're smaller teams, or 50, 100, 200 people, so not thousands of people, but they definitely work as a team. And every team member is part of that. In my organization, I always use the analogy, we're all in the boat together. And if one person is not doing their part to make the boat go forward, the boat's not going to go forward. So it's a team effort. Another question?
Do you see any, I guess probably more in the short term than the long term, loss of that public benefit from moving to a lot of commercial carriers? Maybe insofar as who owns particular research, or who owns places that we might go. Before, it's always been a public endeavor. Do you see any conflicts of interest there? And what do we do to make sure that we protect that legacy?
Those are good questions. Let's see, I would say that, NASA was able to make big headlines out of shuttle flights because everyone wanted to watch what a shuttle was doing. In the future, we will have some of these guys flying, and they'll be just as big, not only from the NASA side, but also these commercial companies will be advertising it, just like SpaceX does today for their launch tomorrow. And so that, to me, it folds into going from airlines to space lines. I believe in 20 or 30 years, we'll have space lines that are going to low Earth orbit and maybe other places, but going to at least low Earth orbit. And that is what I envision as a nation. If we can embody that and say we're going to go from airlines today to space lines in 20 or 30 years, that'd be huge for the country. And then people will then grab onto that interest. I think right now it's a transition period. So we just have to deal with the transition period, make sure we're doing what we can in order to get capability back to low Earth orbit, and then it'll take off from there.
Kind of building on the answer for the last question, I have a question from somebody on Twitter. What objectives do you see the commercial crew undertaking once the ISS mission is complete?
Well, let's see, from a commercial crew standpoint for ISS, we will then manage that program. It'll be a lot smaller than it is today because it's past development. And we'll be doing that for ISS. Now, the next question is can we do other things in low Earth orbit outside of ISS for NASA? We'll have to see how the nation goes in that regard. But what I would say from a commercial crew standpoint, our mission will be NASA, but by engaging and embedding this capability to go to other places, then there'll be other markets to go to other space stations that'll be outside of NASA. NASA should be the fuse to light a fire. But once the fire's going, then I think industry and the nation will want to keep the fire going. So our goal is to get the fire started.
And just one more question. Using the analogy of early United States Postal Service airmail, pilots were killed quite often. It's like, how do we get our country to accept inherent risks of space flight?
Well, everything you do in life has got risks. You driving off the center has got risks. But space flight is not for free from a risk standpoint. And even tomorrow's launch, it's a test flight. And we've got to highlight the fact that it's a test flight. So as a test flight, it has objectives. You're trying to meet those objectives, but it's more about gathering the data as you're trying to meet those objectives than anything else as a test flight. When we fly people under commercial crew, we want to be successful. We really want to be successful. Failure is not an option. I like the book. At the same point, we have to know that there's risks. So you got to manage those risks. And you manage those risks by understanding what that failure could be and what the likelihood of that failure is, and then trying to figure out mitigations to that failure. And if the failure is so low, probability is so low, you might have to accept that. And that's what program managers do every day. That's what we did in the shuttle program. That's what they do on station 24/7. And that's what we'll do under commercial crew. I hope that answered your question. There's always going to be risks. And will every mission be 100% successful? That's the goal. But we are human. And as humans, we trip and fall once in a while. And we learn, if we learn from that trip and fall, then we will be better the next part of the path.
Hi, I wanted to actually amplify that and say something positive. I helped my father build an airplane, and we both have flown in it. And one of the things we do, he's an engineer, grew up on a farm, became a nuclear engineer. We built safety in, and that seemed to be the process. Instead of looking at the risk, we just looked at how could we build more safety into the aircraft. And there were areas I remember him talking about. He just over-designed because he wanted to just build in a little more safety.
And that's exactly what we do. That's exactly what we'll do with our partners. Some of the systems are so critical that for us, we need to have 2 levels of redundancy before we're willing to buy into that kind of system. So if one system fails, you still have another one because you can't just get off the side of the road like you would in a car. So we put those things into the design, and you try to certify it to that kind of level. But even with all the best certification in the world, it is still a system made by humans to operate in an environment that's very harsh.
More questions? Manu? Oh. Good.
A lot cooler here.
What do you see as the next step after, right now we're working in low Earth orbit mostly. What do you see as the next after that? Do we go to the moon, or do we go to Mars, or somewhere in between?
Well, I think from a NASA standpoint, we are making systems, and I'm not sure if the SLS or Orion guys are talking today, but that is the system that will get us beyond low Earth orbit. None of these systems here will get us beyond low Earth orbit. They don't have the energy. It's all about energy. They don't have the energy to get through the physics to get outside of low Earth orbit and go to the moon, to an asteroid, to L2, or to Mars, or anywhere else like that. I think what we have to do then is figure out what does it take to live outside the Earth, outside the low Earth orbit, for a very long period of time. How do you do the logistics? And so I think we'll be figuring that out over the next 10 years as well. And then we can figure out, well, based on that logistical model of how do you get hardware, how do you get crews to survive that long, then we can figure out where's the right place to go. In the end, I think we want to visit all those places again. For me, it's all about visiting all those places to figure out what it means back on Earth. Going to the moon would be great. What does it mean about what our life is back on Earth? Going to a place like an L2 location, what does that mean? Well, maybe that's a place we can learn how to go do things so we can go further, so we can then learn what is all about Earth. And the same thing with Mars. All those trips are hard. Putting people in space is very, very hard. What SpaceX is going to do tomorrow is very hard. Putting people on board someday is even harder. Now go outside low Earth orbit and try to come back safely is even that much more hard. That's why NASA does the hard things, which I'm happy to be a part
of. With the Chinese government stating that their intention is to establish a colony on the moon, do you think that's going to spur our efforts to either do the same or, leapfrog over them to go to Mars? I mean, because if they do, that kind of gives them the military high position, doesn't it?
I don't know if I can even answer that question. I'm trying to figure out how to get to low Earth orbit with our astronauts. And if another country wants to go, okay. See, I think one more here, maybe. I don't know what time I have.
Speaking of just being in low Earth orbit with this program, do you see this program expanding to include these companies and going to Mars or to an asteroid or to L2?
Good question. These rockets with these systems will not be able to go beyond low Earth orbit. Now, if these particular companies want to go compete and do other things, modify their vehicles, modify their spacecraft, work with other companies that have bigger rockets, be a part of the SLS Orion picture in the future, absolutely. They can certainly compete for those kind of opportunities and go do those things. These rockets don't have enough energy to get beyond low Earth orbit. And they were never designed to do that. You know, this is about, someone asked me, this is what it takes to get to low Earth orbit. I have a little Mini, my car I drive is a Mini, and so it goes from point A to point B. If I want to go a long distance, I probably don't want to take my Mini. I'd rather take another car. And so that's the difference between what we're trying to do in low Earth orbit and what we're trying to do when we want to go explore.
The question was, would NASA help fund it?
Well, see, again, for exploration beyond low Earth orbit, right now, that's through SLS and MPCV and exploration group within NASA. And so how they are managing all that, I'm sure they can compete, and I'm sure they are competing if they would like to.
Thanks, Ed. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for any more questions. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Started off, there were no questions. I'm like begging you for questions, and then you guys can stop you guys. Thanks to the teacher. Great. I think this is going to be a long day if we keep giving the microphone to the teacher. So our next speaker is Scott Colorado. He is the chief architect for Kennedy Space Center's Ground Systems Development and Operations Program. And want to welcome Scott.
Thank you. I'm hoping I can pull this over just to have a little visual aid. Is that going to be a problem for you? You good? Right in front of your camera? Keep going? We didn't. This is all classified, so I didn't want you to be able to see anything. Okay, I've heard part of the introduction. My name is Scott Colorado, and we are working on what is being called the Ground Systems Development and Operations Program. Kind of rolls right off the tongue, you know, a bunch of words there, but our acronym is we're required to have in NASA is GSDO. What we do here is we're the program that will essentially convert Kennedy Space Center from what it's been doing the last 30 years or so in the Space Shuttle program to what we're going to be doing next. And I think a lot of your questions before were about, you know, where we're going and beyond low Earth orbit, which is what Ed's working on in the Commercial Crew program, and maybe I can help a little bit there. I'll do my best. Big part of what we're doing today, and by the way, I am wearing jeans and casual. This is standard dress code for engineers on Friday, so I didn't dress up for y'all. It's like a denim factory out here on Friday, so you know, I appreciate y'all being casual as well, so I tried to match up. But to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, I know a lot of you haven't been here before. I hear you're going to go on a tour later today, which is you'll never forget it. I can assure you, coming out here to the VAB and the launch pads and Kennedy Space Center in general, thrill of a lifetime. You'll never forget it. Hopefully I don't oversell that. But to tell you a little bit about what you'll see, just to start off, for example, inside the VAB, this is kind of a nice visual here to show you what we'll be looking at down the road. It's about 4 or 5 years from now, 2012 or 2017. We're going to be launching the, it's not any sooner than that. So got some work ahead of us. And you'll see this today where we've got a lot of work to do between now and then. But one example of the thing we have to do, we have to provide a place to put together the rocket, which is what you see here. This is the Space Launch System. The first example of that with the MPCV, the Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle, or the Orion program, is providing the capsule and the launch abort system and so forth to take care of the crew to go beyond low Earth orbit. Our job, and there's really 3 programs working hand to hand. There's the Orion program, which is the spacecraft. There's the Space Launch System, the rocket, which is the rocket gets it off the ground. We're basically doing everything else. The Ground Systems Development and Operations Program is responsible for building the infrastructure here on the ground that gets this rocket put together and launched. So in the VAB, for example, what you see here is a big structure, which I think you'll see today. outside of the VAB. This big structure is similar to a mobile launch platform. If you've seen that on shuttle, it's where you build up the rocket. The crawler, you've heard about the crawler, the big massive crawler. It picks it up, carries it out to the pad. That's what basically this mobile launcher structure, you see the tower and this gray structure below at the base that'll be picked up, taken to the pad. Inside the VAB, the challenge there is to convert it. Today, what you'll see in bays 3 and 1, if you get in there, are essentially designed around space shuttle programs. So it's what we call a side mount configuration, where the shuttle is mounted to mounted to the side of the rocket. Here it's what we call an inline configuration. So it's a different geometry to work with and requires a different set of access platforms to get to it, as well as new GSE, ground support equipment, and other services to put the rocket together. So that's kind of one big thing that we're working on is the VAB. There's 4 high bays in there. We're modifying bay 3 to support the SLS. And we also, and a big part of what we're also trying to do that hasn't been done so much in the past is account for other rockets that might come through Kennedy. For example, what Ed just talked about, the commercial crew rockets, we're offering up Kennedy Space Center as a service to them, and they may elect to come and launch out of here, depending on who or the contractor selected for that. And we're also modifying Pad B, 39B, just to kind of cover the gamut of it. Is a big thing you'll see today if you drive. I think they're going to go out that way, right? And what you'll see is a conversion of that launch pad again from a shuttle configuration designed to launch a space shuttle to whatever we may launch down the road. And a big part of that is what we call the clean pad concept. Some of you may be able to see it, where essentially the pad is clean and generic as possible, so that virtually any rocket could launch from that launch pad, including the Space Launch System. And then the other thing, I think if they go in the VAB, you'll hopefully see one of the crawlers in there in High Bay 2. It's one of our crawlers that's being upgraded from a lower capacity, what was required for shuttle, to a bigger capacity for the Space Launch System. Just a gee whiz fact there, fun fact. To carry the shuttle out to the launch pad is roughly about 12 million pounds to carry it, so it's a pretty massive size. We need more than that for this. We're thinking in the neighborhood of about 18 million pounds. So we're upgrading that crawler to pick that up, and crawler itself weighs about 5.5 million pounds. So that total stack going to the pad will be 20+ million pounds. So a lot of school buses. I meant to calculate that, how many school buses that is, so y'all could quote it, but I totally forgot. So if somebody could Google what a school bus weighs and then divide that by 23 million or so, that would be very helpful. So I just didn't get time to do it. Can't do it in my head. So I think that's kind of an overview. Actually, a little more. We aren't kind of focused on SLS. Heard a lot of questions about beyond low Earth orbit, which is a big thing we're doing. I think there's a lot of your questions, I think, had to do with where are we going to go and what are we going to do when we get there. And I can tell you one thing. Our big focus now is essentially providing the capabilities to go just about anywhere. And there's basically 3 capabilities in a nutshell that you need: is the Orion spacecraft, a deep space spacecraft, which you don't get from low Earth orbit station that Ed talked about. You need something to go way out there and come way back at a high speed. So everything is a little more challenging from that perspective for protecting the crew. You need a big rocket, which is what the Space Launch System will provide, and then you need a ground system. And our focus right now is really on providing those 3. And then once we have those 3, we can go virtually anywhere. It's just a matter of how many launches, how quickly, how many total there are, and basically just doing the math of how many missions you need to go there. And so there are options out there where we might go. We may go to Mars. We've heard that a lot. We do think that's ultimately our destination. How we get there is really what we're still in the middle of trying to figure out. If we go, start with the moon or start with some other points that are interesting to us, asteroids and things like that, eventually Mars is really the place we'd like to be. Okay.
For questions.
Can they ask the same that they just asked Ed, or those off limits? Those should be off limits.
I'm just going to give it the teacher over here. She can.
Okay.
All right, so I work with 7 and 8-year-olds, and I have a lot of little boys who love Legos and video games, and I'm wondering how. Thank you. So I'm wondering how we can turn the love of Legos and video games into a NASA career, a space career, because not everyone will be working for NASA, obviously.
Well, now but we'd like for them to be able to work on something like we're doing for NASA. Well, let me just say this, that Legos and things like that, all us little boys played with, and girls too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See, I was about to say that, but I'm from the South and talk really slow, so that was the next two words out of my mouth. But essentially what we're doing here, both on the ground and on the rocket, is we're putting pieces together. I mean, little pieces become big pieces. And essentially what Kennedy Space Center is, in a way, is kind of a factory in a sense where, like, for example, the Orion spacecraft is being built over in the ONC building, Operations and Checkout building, 3 or 4 miles south of here. And it's when pieces come in, they've just started to come in the last few weeks. They're, no bigger than this table maybe. They're really small. And you start putting together, I mean, that is the spacecraft factory. Eventually, when it rolls out of the building, it doesn't look very big on this picture because everything else is so big, but it's roughly 18-foot diameter, 35, 40-foot long, the total package, and it grows to bigger and bigger pieces. I mean, that's essentially what we do here, is take smaller pieces and make bigger pieces out of them. We do that on the ground. All the ground systems you see, the major facilities, the launch pads, the crawlers, things like that. In my mind, that's kind of what we're doing. We're just, bigger guys being able to play with, and girls playing with bigger toys. So I don't know if that helps you answer the question, but that's the way I look at it.
Well, can I ask a follow-up?
I can't believe they pay me to do this.
Oh, I know. I think some of my students watching are thinking, all right, my Legos, there's a future for Legos in my life. A follow-up question is, being that I work with 7 and 8-year-olds, they have a hard time working as a team. So is teamwork important in a career like this?
Not at all. No, I'm just kidding. And we have perfectly seamless teams that never have a disagreement, and it all goes well. Now, teamwork is vital. I mean, clearly, when we try to get together, and I mean, I spend a lot of my time as a manager trying to get people to get along and make sure that they're working together. Because what you see in a system like this, I mean, these are pretty simple graphics, but there's so many systems, electrical and avionics and propulsion and engines and you name it. I mean, there's in the human systems, it's obviously very complex things we're working with ultimately, and they start out with these little pieces, but when you put them together, a big part I've learned is I've kind of, famous quote I've heard, I'm an engineer that descended into management. So now I got to make sure people play together. And it's a big part of it. It really is. I mean, it's probably the most important part, really, as far as the teamwork goes. Okay, you're welcome.
Someone pointed out earlier that some of these facilities haven't changed much since Apollo. How much of a challenge is it to work, to upgrade facilities that were built in the 1960s, 50 years ago, to support something like this?
I would say it's a challenge, but it's also kind of a blessing in the sense that the guys back in the 60s and ladies, it's a, can't remember. See there, I talk slow, but I get there eventually. The 60s, back in the 60s when basically all this was built, the space program essentially started on the other side of the program where they launched on what they call ICBM Row with all the smaller rockets. When they built LC-39, the VAB and all that, they really designed it pretty modular where it could go just about anywhere. And it's actually, if you Google it or whatever, it was actually designed around what's a Nova class vehicle. It was actually bigger than anything we've ever actually developed. So we have a lot of margin in there to build a bigger and bigger rocket. I would say in generally, like in the VAB, for example, you can look at the columns that hold the platforms up, which service the rocket. Those are outfitted with holes up and down those columns so that you can put a platform pretty much at any height that you want to, which is what we're about to do with this next program. Things like that were designed to where we're pretty much unlimited what we can do. There's 4 VAB bays for this program. We're only going to need 1, so we have 3 more to do commercial or other things. We have 2 crawlers. We probably only need 1, so that's an extra one that we can play with if we need to for another program. We have 2 launch pads. Right now we only need 1. So there's a lot of margin in there that we can take advantage of. But generally, I would say what they did back in the 60s, very flexible. The crawler they built back then, we're still using it. The 3 mobile launch platforms we used for shuttle for 30 years, we still have them. They're available for commercial users if they choose to use them. And same with the launch pads. We're still using them. Matter of fact, this is really the first program. We don't have any major new construction, with the exception of the mobile launcher you'll see out here at the VAB, this big gray structure on the right. With the exception of that, we're really not building anything new. So I would say it's a challenge, but I mean, thankfully they had the money back then to build this infrastructure, and we're still taking advantage of it. Okay.
Is that on? Yeah. I had a question with the shuttle program not running now. The shuttle runway, is that going to be maintained, the very long runway?
It is.
And then the other question, the follow-up was, there's the project Paul Allen and SpaceX, the Stratolaunch, that rocket they're supposedly going to build. Would that be using that runway, perhaps?
We hope so. We actually met with those guys last week, and it was two guys. I don't know. I mean, you know, they have women working for them too, I think, but it was just guys that came to see us. But we've actually met with them, and they're looking real hard at coming here. But yes, that is on their radar. And to answer your first question, we are planning to maintain the SLF at some level. I mean, obviously, we're not landing shuttles there. We do have one more orbiter it needs to leave to go on its ferry flight. But we've kind of down-moded it in the sense we don't need shuttle landing aids, for example, to land a shuttle. But we are planning on maintaining the runway, and we're looking real hard right now with Stratolaunch as one of our potential users and how we might modify the SLF to do that. Turns out it's a good runway. It's not only long and straight, it's also got a high capacity, and that Stratolaunch vehicle is so heavy that the SLF looks like a good site for them. So we really hope they come here.
Hey, my father's watching
Oh, there
now,
you are.
and he actually used to work here as an engineer on the crawler, and he was wondering, with all the new upgrades that you guys plan on doing, is it still going to be about a mile an hour?
Yep, the one thing we're not playing with is the speed, and honestly, we don't really need to. I mean, if we ever had a need to go faster, we'd look at ways, and we have looked at ways of doing that. The crawler is probably not our best option to go fast, though. And we can play with a little. I mean, some of the speed that we play with is not due just because it's slow. It's because the vehicle doesn't want to vibrate at a certain frequency, so you play with that speed to get it right. And I don't think we've settled on a speed for SLS rollout yet, but it'll be slow. That much I do know. About a mile an hour, maybe I think shuttle ended up running about 0.8 or 0.9. Not sure what we're going to do. So you'll have time to see it when it's rolling. Okay.
Hi. I have a question, please. This is a question that I've been asked by a member of one of the social networks. And I don't know if this is one of your areas of expertise or not. So they've asked me to ask
friend's
about
problem, not your problem.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
If you know anything about the status of the Nautilus X program, which would be the multi-mission crew exploration vehicle.
What was the first one? The Nautilus X?
Nautilus X.
It's
apparently an ongoing program for a new exploration vehicle that NASA is working on. It's supposed to be cost effective, and it's got to do with the centrifuge. I've been told that.
I mean, it sounded like the acronym was almost MPCV, multi-purpose crew vehicle, but is that something different?
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it's a multi-mission crew exploration vehicle, supposed to go out of a low orbit to a mission to other entities.
No, I mean, that sounds like a generic name for what we're doing with Orion, which is exactly that. It's a multi-purpose crew exploration vehicle. It's kind of a merger of two acronyms we've used for the same thing, it sounds like.
Well, this is called the Nautilus X.
Okay, that I'm not. If it's on Wikipedia, it's real, but.
Oh yeah.
I mean.
You never know, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I.
No, but apparently it's an ongoing project. But
yeah, I'm not familiar. Is it a NASA project or is it a private? Really?
I believe so.
It's probably a research project.
Yes,
I'm guessing that
NASA.
hadn't made it here yet.
If you believe Wikipedia, of course.
Okay, yeah, that's enough. Usually I do. My kids aren't allowed to use it, though, I'm told. So must be something there. Teachers apparently have banned Wikipedia.
Since you have such a good sense of humor, I'd like to ask you,
Uh-oh.
what's it like talking to an audience that's looking down and fiddling with their computer and social devices?
Oh, it's great. Actually, it's funny you say that because we have this is the way we meet nowadays. I mean, the old school guys drives them crazy, and I'm kind of in between the old school and the younger kids. And you know, we joke about people playing Battleship, if you're old enough to remember that. You know, looking across the table, you know, G5 and hit and that sort of thing. So we're used to people playing Battleship all the time. The older guys that we work with, it drives them crazy. They want to ban them, but doesn't bother us a bit. We've even gotten to the point where we really want you to pay attention to something. We'll say, look up from your laptops. I want y'all to pay attention to this. So it's part of the culture now.
We are listening. We're just taping everything.
Oh, okay, good. That's good. And that's why I talk slow. Oh.
I had quite a compare and contrast question. I've crawled inside the engine nestle of a Saturn V. Can you compare the SLS to the old classic Saturn V in terms of size, thrust, etc.?
Yeah, it's a little, whatever Saturn V had, we're going to be a little bigger. That's kind of the rule of thumb. We're trying. All right, that was easy. Well, for example, it's 5 SSMEs is going to be the ultimate, I think, where we end up. I take it back. We're kind of debating between it. It's actually going to be 4 SSMEs, could go to 5. I think we've actually settled on 4 for now. Diameter-wise, it's actually a little thinner. It's going to be 27.5-foot diameter, which is common with an ET on shuttle, but it's going to be longer. And it's actually one of the things that we ironically deal with, amazes me still. The limit of a height of a rocket that can roll out of the VAB is right at 400 feet. And we're playing with that here. You know, compare that to some of these guys that top out around roughly in the 200-foot range. We're roughly twice as tall. So yeah, it's bigger. But we limit the rocket designers, and they're primarily out of Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And we keep reminding them, don't design a rocket bigger than the VAB. I mean, we could build another VAB, but we're already not using the one we have as much as we'd like. So that's, I mean, and then depending on the configuration that we're dealing with, I think it's going to top out just under 400 feet, which is nice because it fits in the VAB. So, and we do, I say the core is thinner, but obviously you can tell by the picture there are going to be 2 strap-on boosters. Presumably, we're going to start with solids. We may evolve beyond that. But the main, and I want to say, I can't quote you the first thrust, the first stage thrust right off the top of my head, but the gross liftoff weight is around, I want to say around 8 million pounds, whereas Saturn V was more like 6.5 million pounds. So, big rocket. Biggest one ever.
We'll actually see one later today, a Saturn V rocket, just FYI.
Is this okay? You mentioned when you started, you wanted, part of us putting our faces down on our screens is doing research. 800 standard school buses.
All right. Appreciate that. Now I've got to get my graphics guy that did this for me, and I really want to show a picture of 800. I don't know how he's going to do it, but 800 school buses, because that's really what we're lifting. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm glad to know that myself. We all learned it at the same time. You know?
Teacher, any questions? I'm sure you have a name.
Do we have more time? I'll think of something. Sorry, I was Facebooking there, tweeting,
Oh, really?
so that the kids. Actually, my kids are following me on Twitter because we are not allowed to do Facebook.
Oh.
And I thought your comments about the social media was really interesting because my kids are natives. They're 7 and they've got their own little Twitter, handles and everything. So
I believe it. Yeah.
So I'm kind of hedging here for a minute for a question because I forgot my question while I was tweeting. Are you ready to ask a question?
You're
No.
covering it all for us.
Covering it all.
Is it? So she's
Well-
the teacher of the group, huh?
Yeah. Well, there's another one or two here.
Oh, okay.
But I know my kids are watching, so. Do you have a question? Because you have one.
No, can I just make a statement? My kids were blessed to be introduced to SpaceX during the STS-135 launch. We were invited
good.
to view the Dragon, and I just want to tell you, of 2 kids in the whole world, they've drank the Kool-Aid. They're
good.
hooked.
Good,
They're hooked.
good,
So I thank
good.
you for all that you're doing.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I remembered my question. I'd been kind of wanting to get this in for the students. They love astronauts. So can you tell an astronaut story? Like a time when, an interesting time when you've met an astronaut. They just love, and I don't think we have one coming today, so.
Oh, you don't? Oh, so I'm kind of the
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to get this question
astronaut
in.
by proxy, huh? Let me try to think of something. Well, I'll tell you, like, for example, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a real good one, but one of the things they didn't expect when they first flew was the one on shuttle is when the way the solids basically just throw you up there. And when those solids drop off, it's like going in reverse almost. It just kind of drops out. And to me, I mean, those guys who trained and trained and trained and trained, there's certain things they can't simulate. And I thought that was, I don't know, to me that was kind of a unique thing that even those guys that have done all that wouldn't have expected that. And it was a thrill, obviously. The question we mostly get about how to go to the bathroom in space, you know. I don't even know what that.
We've got that one covered
Okay,
already.
good,
We
good.
got that one.
My wife's done that going to several schools. She said that's the main thing they ask. So hopefully that's been covered by somebody else. I don't know. We work for an astronaut. Bob Cabana is our center director. He's a good guy and has helped making a lot of this vision come to pass. And one of the things, little known fact, that astronauts are all through the space agency. We work with them on a regular basis, and they're in management positions, and they influence what we do. I mean, to us, they're coworkers, but it is interesting when a question comes up once in a while, and you have a guy in the room who's actually flown, and ladies in the room that have actually flown, and it's nice to get their input, you know. Because, for example, one of the things that we're designing for the launch pad, you may not be able to see it here, it's called the emergency egress system. On Space Shuttle, it was basically a basket you jump into and go down the slide wire, right? We're going to do a roller coaster, essentially, on the Ares program. Now we're not sure what we're going to do, but we work with the astronauts to help dictate what that's going to look like. Because if you have an on-pad situation before they've loaded or even after they've loaded, then that's the way we get them off the pad. So.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming out today, Scott.
All right. Thank you.
Three mics. I don't know which one I'm talking to. So another trivia question occurred to me while I was sitting here. There's a Commercial Crew and Cargo Program Office. Anyone know what the acronym for that is? C-3PO. I just like Star Wars references. There's actually an R2. Can anyone tell me what R2 is? No one? Robonaut 2? That's just the nickname R2 on Space Station. Okay, enough about the trivia questions. Let me introduce our next speakers. We have Jose Nunez and Todd Arnold with the International Space Station. Guys, thank you.
So let's see. I have been part of the International Space Station for the past 15 years, basically been a key member of the team helping it to be assembled. So my experiences basically have been to check out and test all of the different systems that we've sent to the ISS, from trusses to orbital replacement units to payloads. So as you know, we've basically taken all those pieces that have gone in the space shuttle. We've actually tested them, integrate them, checked them, whether it be electrically, mechanically, fluid-wise, you name it, we've done it here. But we're not done just because the shuttle's over, right? We're still launching things in different vehicles. And so one of the key things that we're also continuing to do is to send the ORUs, the big ones. So you know where the big ORUs are flown in, right? Anyone? HTV, Japanese. So we just 2 years ago we did a launch campaign over in Tanegashima, Japan, where we actually sent 2 orbital replacement units that actually have been already installed inside or outside the International Space Station, and we're continuing to do that right now. We're installing flight support equipment associated with 2 other ORUs. Which, as you know, the ISS is basically a Lego type, design. So those Legos, once they get broken or they need a replacement, we actually take one from our little stores that is right there next to the truss, and we pull one out and change it out and put another one back in. So that's basically what we're doing, integrating different ORUs. The 2 that will be going up in the next. Not the next HTV-3 mission, but HTV-4, which is the one that we're working on, is one that's called the main bus switching unit, and that which basically switches power back and from the different batteries. And then the other one is the UTA, or umbilical transfer assembly, which basically simply takes the power from the inboard trusses and takes it out to the outboard trusses. So it actually helps take that power back and from. Questions or continue talking?
Any questions? Feel free to keep talking. Any questions for Jose?
Yeah. So let's see. So we're continuing to integrate items to the ISS. That's going to be a continuous basis, utilizing different vehicles. We're also supporting the different payloads that will go up in that sense. We actually helped integrate the SCAN payload that will be going out of Japan. Again, the SCAN was a payload that was managed out of Glenn Research Center, and they basically hired us to help them in Japan based on our expertise. So we did that as well. So we're continuing to support the ISS. We're continuing to help it in terms of logistics, maintenance, operations, and we're continuing to do so until the end. That's one of the main drivers with the ISS. Todd, did you want to come up here and kind of mention anything that you had?
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm Todd Arnold, and I'm currently the Acting Deputy Director for Public Affairs here at Kennedy Space Center. Been in this job for about 3-4 days now. Thank you. So prior to this, I was the ISS Strategic Manager, so Jose has replaced me in that particular function here at Kennedy Space Center. And probably what I would add to what Jose has already shared, around last May of 2011, we reached a very, very remarkable milestone in the history of the International Space Station, and that's what's called assembly complete. Basically, all of the Legos had been finished. And so now what has happened is we've entered into a new era for the International Space Station, and we're calling this era ISS full assembly, full utilization. So as we go into the full utilization era, it gives us an opportunity to place a whole lot more emphasis on the original intent, that of research. So you're going to start hearing a lot out there about the research that has been going on and will go on. I will say from the very beginning of human occupancy on the space station, we began research, but as you know, the crew's time was really committed to assembling the vehicle and maintaining the vehicle. So now that we're done with the assembly, we have a lot more crew availability to conduct the research science. And in regards to the research science, it's going to come in a few flavors. You'll have the NASA research, those hardcore things that NASA has been chartered to go do for the U.S. and for the world. And we'll be doing a lot more human health research, exploration, technology. You'll begin hearing a lot about technology demonstrations being done on this wonderful human outpost, as well as a lot on life and physical sciences. In addition to the NASA research, you've probably heard a lot about what's called national lab research. So this essentially takes the U.S. allocation of on-orbit assets on the International Space Station and make those assets available not just to NASA, but to other government institutes such as National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, USDA, and there are others. So the National Lab will have its own set of objectives independent of NASA's research objectives, and I'm sure there'll be lots of collaboration across the two fronts. Ongoing will also be the international partner research. So each of the partners that assisted us with the assembly, they have modules and capabilities on orbit, and so they've got their research objectives. So if you can envision a wonderful laboratory of collaboration that would occur at a university, we now have that on this human outposts. So it's a great time to be a part of the program. It's a great time to tune in and to follow some of the things that are going on. Education is probably the other area that's going to be very, very robust on the International Space Station. So efforts are afoot to continue engaging students and teachers to do experiments on the ground concurrent with the kinds of things that are going on the International Space Station. So I'll stop right there and open up the floor for any questions for Jose or me.
First question over here.
First of all, I could ask 100 questions about the space station because that is the coolest thing ever invented. But I guess my first one, or one of the ones that I'm interested in, is tell me a little bit about the science experiments that are going on. And I know that there are so many, but like there was a spider brought up, and they're like growing plants and all kinds of things. So maybe some of your favorites.
Absolutely. So lots of experiments. And let me just say this, just as a top level view. The experiments kind of span multiple research disciplines. So you'll hear about experiments in areas of microgravity or combustion science, life sciences. Now, interestingly enough, our life sciences are broken across about three fields. You've got the animal research, you've got the plant research, you've got the human research, and all three of those areas have their own microbial levels of research. So you will hear quite a bit. Since you're here at Kennedy Space Center today, I will tell you that Kennedy Space Center's contribution in that particular arena of life sciences is primarily in the area of plants. So we have developed, working with partners and grantees, university grantees, we have developed a suite of flight hardware facility and sub-facility capabilities, essentially plant growth chambers. The plants, in order to grow in space, need certain environmental parameters. And so we have developed hardware to maintain those parameters. We're looking to expand the offerings for that suite of hardware broader than life sciences, perhaps. It may require some unique science inserts, but certainly anything needing a controlled environment at a shoebox kind of level maybe would be a target audience there.
You know, tell them about the cold plasma applicator.
I wish I could.
It's the coolest thing. So, there's a lot of different researchers in the ISS. And one of the things that they've done research with is with plasma. And as you know, matter exists in three different states: solid, liquid, and gas. But then there's other plasma state that is kind of quasi, one way or the other. So they've actually taken the understanding of how plasma works up in the ISS and brought it down here and have developed a applicator, and they're going through clinical trials right now. So such applicator, you could actually, if you have a wound, for instance, kind of apply it or kind of hover over the wound, and it would actually help it increase its healing capabilities. And this has been very successful so far with diabetics. As you know, they're very hard, when they have a wound, they're hard to heal. So interesting things like that is just kind of really bringing it home, because that's, even though it's in ice, in space, that laboratory is really for us down here on Earth.
Hi. I was wondering, since the retirement of shuttle, we have ways to get stuff up to the International Space Station, but not many ways to get things back. And with the upcoming Dragon capsule, at least as a cargo transport, and the ability to return things safely to Earth, how that would be utilized, and the kind of the top priorities of what experiments or objects will be taken back down to Earth from the International Space Station.
So you've hit on a very interesting point. When you're operating in a remote environment, there are some constraining parameters. Earlier, I mentioned the crew availability as a constraint. Obviously, transportation becomes very critical, both up and, as you've mentioned, down. So the current profiles looks forward to the SpaceX series actually providing some down mass, limited down mass. It's not of the volume that we would have enjoyed with the space shuttle, but limited down mass. Not every visiting vehicle to the space station will necessarily offer down mass, so we've got to be very careful in how we manifest those experiments that are returning. One of the mitigation efforts that has worked very successfully is what we're calling telescience or telemetric science, where we try to build the systems and facility capabilities to maximize the return on science even while you're still in space. So we can use camera systems and our telemetry links to downlink information. In the plant growth area, for example, we were able to do that successfully over the last couple of years, and we were actually able to then uplink commands to adjust environmental controls so as to not overtax the crew's limited time.
Wait for the mic.
This is my biggest concern about the fact that one day, when I'm an astronaut for you guys or SpaceX or whoever, I want to know if I can bring my dog up there with me. Have you ever had astronauts, or has there ever been talk about, I know it's not, big science or anything, but that's your pet. So has anyone ever wanted to bring their pet up there?
I have not heard anything about someone asking to bring a dog. Doesn't mean the question hasn't been asked. We've had insects,
frogs, fish.
Keep it family friendly.
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you, but I'm sure there's someone out there that can.
You know, it's funny. Someone just complained to me the other day that all we get asked the same questions over again. That was a new one. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's might need diapers.
On a little bit serious note, the Soyuz, can you guys talk about their recent failures and how comfortable you guys are now with their launch capability? And
I don't have any data on the Soyuz issue.
Yeah,
so.
same here. It probably would be inappropriate. I'm not an expert in that particular area. Suffice it to say that NASA has to balance all available transportation options in there. So maybe someone speaking later might be able to speak appropriately in that area.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Hi, I'm interested in the ramifications of long-duration space travel on mental health. Can you tell me about any experiments or any future research that NASA will be doing on the space station or even at a ground center?
Well, I will say this, and I'll keep it very high level. Within the research fields, one of the areas is human health and habitability or performance, how well a human can perform in a space environment in remote conditions. There are a number of questions that are yet to be answered that we've been working on for years that if we answer, then we can further human exploration. So there's an entire division for human exploration. It's housed at the Johnson Space Center, and they've got a number of scientists and engineers that are off working that in partnership with a number of grantees. And I don't know specific answers about the psychology effects there, but I believe that's something that is being looked into. I do know that in past history we've looked at things such as is there an effect of on a human of watching a green plant grow, for example, in space. So there have been some efforts in that area, but there are some websites available for human research within NASA. If you simply Google NASA human research, I think you probably would get to that area. Okay?
All right. I teach second grade gifted students. So they're 7 and 8 years old and they're watching. So I've been asking questions that the kids want to know about. When we do our unit about the moon, we learned about how it was a race between the Soviets and the United States. But now space travel has changed. Now it's an international space station. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that globalization of space exploration and how it is like, what it's like to work with people from all over the world.
I could try to tackle that one. So, you know, this has been one of the largest international collaborations projects ever, you know, that we know of. It has been really a challenge, but it's the way of the future, right? I mean, we remember trying to work in the beginning with the Japanese and the Russians and the Canadians and the Europeans. Everybody brings in their culture. Everybody brings in their own way of seeing things, or own even engineering perspective. And you know, to be honest with you, it was an interesting, you know, start, because how do you deal with all these cultures all at once? Take the example of software code. There's about 4 million lines of code. So some Germans would have, you know, written some language code, then some other Italians and Canadians, and then all of that language, all the software code has to then be integrated. So how do you do that? So it has been a learning process, and but one that we've been able to overcome, try to understand everybody's differences, understand each other's cultures, and I think we have built such a great team throughout the years of working, you know, one-on-one with them. So as it comes, you know, as the moon comes, and trying to globalize the exploration activities, we're just going to have to learn to continue to work together, because otherwise we will never get there again.
Then what advice would you have for my second graders for how they could, you know, learn about cultures and be prepared for this global future?
Learn another language. You don't learn about a culture without learning its language.
Yeah, one other thing to point out in that area would be, I'm finding that the crew oftentimes behave very much like scientists within a laboratory. very eager to collaborate. So by virtue of that environment being the way it is, I think it fosters collaboration.
I have a question. I would love to do research with NASA in any sort of capacity. What would be, I'm not sure if this is a particular question that's good for you, but what would be the some steps that I should take to be able to see that through?
Well, one thing would be to kind of get into the NASA research announcements.
There's a system called Inspires. It's where NASA posts its research announcements. Those announcements flow from fundamental questions, like I mentioned in the human research area, that must be answered to further human exploration. That's one place to start. If you are partnered today with a university, it's likely your university is already subscribed to that, or maybe a network of engineering disciplines perhaps might be subscribed. That's one place to start. I would also encourage any of the web-savvy people to begin combing the International Space Station website pages, and they're tucked underneath the nasa.gov. Lots of information there. There are targeted sets of data for people who are interested as potential researchers. I'd encourage you to begin there.
We have time for one more question. Okay, over here.
Yes, so this is for the kids who are watching the education channel. So recently with YouTube Space Lab, 2 young Americans were chosen to fly their experiment aboard, and Sunny Williams will actually work with us. So can you talk a little bit about, if the process that the kids actually get to go through, and more importantly, how kids today can seek out those other opportunities? Will the program be repeated, or are there other similar programs that the kids can look forward to?
Sure. Well, what I'll do is I'll maybe mention a couple programs that have been successful in the education arena associated with Space Station. We've had several, actually. The Commercial Generic Bioprocessing Apparatus Science Insert, CGBA, long way to say that. That was an educational payload that was designed to foster interest in K through 12 students. And in that case, we were trying to attract them to the science, technology, engineering, and math fields, potentially as career options for them. And they were allowed with this particular experiment to participate in what we call near real-time research concurrent with what was going on the space station. We've had others, EarthCam, which is Earth knowledge acquired by middle school students, targeted the middle school students. And I believe with that particular one, the students were actually involved in operating a digital camera that was on board the International Space Station. So that was one way to bring them in. I think they were looking at various geographical targets in that case. We've had, I believe, something called Kids in Microgravity Experiment Challenge. Kids in Micro G, that was maybe targeting grades 5 through 8, and the list goes on and on. So we've had a number of those. Also, as I directed the other gentleman to the International Space Station website pages in nasa.gov, there are tags there for NASA education outreach. There are tags in specific pages targeting teachers who can bring curriculum perhaps into the classroom, or certainly use some of the published information to supplement the curriculum they already have in their classroom. And there are some things for smaller kids as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys coming out today.
Sure.
Okay, I know it's. I'll choose red. Just noticed on Twitter that we're trending, and now we have spam, so that's the consequence. So you'll see if you look at Pound NASA Social, you'll see some spam. That's okay. And I saw that it's like now you have to describe the people. It's Pound NASA Socialites, which I think is really cool. I've never seen that before, so that's how you're describing what we are. So anyways, my next speaker and our last speaker before our break, our food is here, so we can, and I know probably all you eager to use the potty perhaps. So what we'll do, our next speaker rather, is a friend and colleague of mine at Johnson Space Center. He was formerly a CBS reporter, and now he is here at Johnson doing commentary and lots of other things as well. But one thing he does, he's worked the shuttle, and he's going to be doing the SpaceX launch tomorrow, and also the mission. One thing that you'll also hear him on is he flies to Russia and does commentary for the Soyuz. He does a rotation with another commentary, Rob Navius, and they are a dream team for NASA. So let me introduce you, Josh Bartley.
Good morning, everybody. You guys having fun down here at Kennedy? It's always, I love Johnson Space Center. It's always fun to come down to Florida and hang out with our friends down here, though. But so it's good that you're down here for the SpaceX launch. I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what you heard just a minute ago about how our jobs have changed in public affairs and talking on NASA TV since the shuttle, because obviously we were on the air for 9 hours during our shifts for shuttle, and everybody knew what we did. Station's a little bit different. Back up until about a year and a half ago, we were really focused on building it. So us commentators would sit there and talk about how big the modules were, how they put them together. We got very used to that. And these days we talk about how the station crew is using it, which is a different deal. We talk a lot about the science, which for people like us that are journalism majors and not engineers and not scientists is a little difficult sometimes. Usually if there's a word I cannot pronounce, I just kind of skip right over it and keep talking. So it's, but it's cool stuff. It's just a different deal because it's, how do you talk to the public whenever they're used to seeing the shuttle with its smoke and its fire and the drama of that, and then get them as equally engaged with the space station whenever it doesn't launch. It's just up there. But the stuff that the crews are doing is completely cool. We talk about the science. What we've learned about what the human body does up in space is just fantastic. And if we're ever going to go to Mars or go beyond that, we've got to learn those lessons and figure out how we adapt. So the crews are doing that kind of stuff. So, it's a different time. Obviously, with SpaceX launching, we're having to learn a new vehicle, new spacecraft. And honestly, for us commentators, when we sit down to talk about a mission, it's like we're studying for a test. We literally have just reams of paper that we have to read through and study and memorize this stuff, and then hopefully go on NASA TV and get it right for you guys. So this SpaceX has been really interesting, really fun for us to kind of learn a new spacecraft and to integrate that into all the other things we talk about, like the Japanese HTV cargo craft, the Europeans have their ATV, and obviously the Russians have their Soyuz and their Progress. So George Diller is going to be doing the launch bright and early tomorrow morning, and then I'll head back to Houston and do the mission, and we'll see how this flight goes. But you guys can ask me anything. I'm willing to take any questions. Ask me what it's like to work in mission control. Anything. Go ahead.
Wait for the mic. Step by. You're so eager.
As long as there's an anything opportunity, and you're in public affairs, so
Right.
this will work for you.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, an undisclosed engineer, set up the buildtheenterprise.org site with like all the stuff to build a first generation Enterprise type
Right.
ship within 20 years. Any comment on that?
It's funny. So this is a true story. I got a question about a year and a half ago from a magazine saying, we need an official comment from NASA about how much it would cost to build the Enterprise. Well, we don't know, So my answer, not that I'm a Trekkie, but my answer was anybody that follows Star Trek knows that there's no money in that time period, so it's free.
Well played.
See, I do my job well, so. Next question. Yeah.
You said you went to journalism school. I was curious if you could just give kind of a little bit of a background of how you ended up doing commentary for NASA.
That's an interesting story. Okay, so yeah, I went to journalism school thinking I was actually going to go be a lawyer, and I ended up getting. It's funny because I started out in radio actually, just as a lark down in Bryan College Station, Texas, and the radio station that I worked for had a partnership with the CBS affiliate, and they approached me to actually go do an internship, which everybody needs an internship. So I did that, not really knowing that I would end up doing this one of these days. But it's funny how your life takes turns. Now, parallel to that, back whenever I think there's somebody in here that teaches second grade. Was it you? Yeah. Okay. So my mom and dad took me on a trip when I was a little kid down to Houston because my dad's company's always been down there. I grew up in East Texas, but back then you could actually walk around the Johnson Space Center a little bit more freely than you can today. But we took a tour, and they took us into this building that was what we now call the Space Vehicle Mock-Up Facility. And I actually ended up meeting at a very young age the Challenger crew, some of them. And that set the course of my life, that one moment. So that's why I'm really passionate about, reaching out to kids and students, because you never know what you're going to inspire them to do. So, I didn't realize that would set the seeds of what would happen to me later on in my life, but it did. So, I, just like every other employee at NASA back when I was working in Dallas, actually just stuck my resume in USA Jobs, which is where every federal employee goes, and it hit. which is very, I mean, the odds of that are very small, you know, but it did, and lucky enough, I got the position, and I came at a very interesting time during history when the shuttle was retiring, and we're starting this stuff with the station and these commercial partners. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of luck, a little bit of planning, but you know, you never know how things are gonna work out.
Hi. Okay, you said ask you anything, so space station questions are still okay?
Sure.
All right, this question actually comes from my sister's kindergarten class at John Young Elementary.
Okay.
It's a two-parter. They want to know what happens if there's a meteor or other space junk heading toward the space station, and is the food really yucky?
You're in luck because I know the answer to both of those. Okay, so a lot of times we have to do what's called a debris avoidance maneuver, right? So we track there's a lot of stuff out there in space floating around that we track, and a lot of it's just, you know, junk from other satellites that have either gone out of commission or whatever it may be, or a piece of debris that was just up there. So obviously whenever something's going 17,000 miles an hour, you don't want that hitting the station. So a lot of times they track it, they assign this kind of color code to it based on what the probability that it's going to hit is. So they can move the orbit of the station and get out of the way of it if they want to. If they don't have enough time to do that because that requires a lot of planning, then they'll actually put the crew inside their Soyuz to offer shelter in case they had to, you know, evacuate all of a sudden. Luckily, we've never had to do that. So that's easily done. Now, in terms of the food, we have the food lab actually at the Johnson Space Center where they create the food and they make it and things like that for both shuttle and station. So I've been able to taste some of that. The shrimp cocktail is fantastic. The tofu with hoisin sauce is nasty. That's just me. But yeah, it's actually, they've got really good food up there. They have a broccoli rice casserole and some other things that are just really, it's good. I mean, it's better than the cafeteria food I had in school, so.
I wanted to ask a question on behalf of a journalist friend of mine. What do you think the news cycle is on the ISS?
The news cycle?
Yeah.
Like in terms of time?
Yeah.
You know, it depends. If it's something that's happening kind of that day and is, you know, like a Soyuz docking or something like that, it's pretty immediate. I mean, you know, the media still cover it quite a bit, and we get a lot of attention. You know, a lot of people. The question that I always get is, "What are you guys doing now that the shuttle has retired?" And I can honestly tell you with a straight face that we are busier now than we have ever been before. It's a different time now that shuttle has retired, but you know, the media interest is still there. There's still a lot to cover, and there's still a lot of stories to tell about what we're doing up on board the station, and they're good stories. So.
Is there something like today on the ISS?
Yeah, so we have the ISS update show every day at 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern. That there's a handful of us that do that every day. We've kind of changed the format of that a little bit. Instead of just kind of running commentary, we're trying to bring in more guests. You know, sit people down that actually work behind the scenes, because you know, one of the greatest stories about the station is the people that work behind the scenes on the ground to make all that possible and make it work. And there's some people that just have some really cool jobs. You know, people ask me, how did I get my job? I want to know how some of these people ended up, you know, how do you become the person that actually steers the space station and makes it turn? You know, there's a person in mission control that does that. So we're trying to tell more of that. We're trying to tell more of the research stories and things like that and get the public engaged and let them know what we're doing. So it's a good question. Who else?
Sorry, could you please compare and contrast the differences between, or the differences and similarities between the U.S. launches you've experienced and the Russian launches you've experienced?
Yeah. Okay. So John told you that I go over to Russia and Kazakhstan with Rob Navius, who's my counterpart in Houston. So we rotate. So if he does launch, I do landing, and if you know the other way. It's different. The first time they took me out there, you know, the Russians have a very long-standing, proven way that they've done things, and it's radically different than how we do it here. It's just a different culture, and you learn to appreciate that whenever you're over there. The rocket is impressive whenever you see it. There's a heck of a lot of engines on the bottom of it, if you've ever seen a picture of the Soyuz. Now, what's funny is I was so used to going to shuttle launches here where we're back 3 or 4 miles from the launch complex. Out at the launch site in Baikonur, you're about 1 kilometer away. And they took us out there and they stood us there, and I turned around to Rob and I was like, we are really close. You know, but it's impressive. I mean, it's impressive how they do it. Now, landings, which I've probably done more of, it's just fun. I mean, you know, you get to be part of a very small team out there. We did a video out there, if you guys have ever seen it, a behind-the-scenes video, where we took the camera along and kind of show what it's like. It's a very small group of people that go out there. The Russian search and rescue people are fantastic. They welcome you. They're very warm people. And they've got that process down very quickly. I mean, that capsule gets down on the ground, and we see it hit. And we're on the ground within a matter of just a couple of minutes, and they've got the crew out within just a blink of an eye, you know. Last time I went was Mike Fossum's landing, and it was about negative 15 degrees. That part you never kind of get used to. But it's an interesting, the Soyuz is a very small vehicle, but it's a workhorse. It's a workhorse. So, what else?
Is there alcohol on the space station? And can you get drunk?
Yeah, that has been in the news lately. One of these, one of these experiments going up has something that is not us. That's not NASA. We don't have anything to do with that at all. So, yeah, I can only speak on behalf of the agency. The answer to that's no. But there are some others that are not with us that are taking a look at that. So.
Just expand that. What do they do for fun up there?
What do they do for fun? They sit there. You guys know what the cupola is, right? The big windows. They look at Earth a lot. They look at their hometowns. I mean, I don't think that would ever get old, But they've got phones on board. They can talk to their family. They can email each other. I mean, they're in much better contact with their friends and family now than they've ever been before. So it feels like they're there. But I don't think that view would ever get old. And that's what I've always asked. Whenever they come back, is what was it like to look down? In the pictures, as good as our cameras are, they say just don't do it justice at all. So. Sometimes humans are the only ones that can actually appreciate something a camera can't quite capture it. So.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question, I think.
One more?
Okay, we'll take it over here, and this will close it up.
Since you've watched the landings, and we've seen them on TV as well, and we've heard astronauts talk about the return in the Soyuz.
Yeah.
What's your perspective or perception of that landing when it occurs?
It's not for the faint of heart, I can tell you that. I would, talking to Mike Fink and some of the other astronauts that have flown that, you ask them about the landing, because if you guys know anything about it, I mean, it comes down pretty quick, and they've got these soft landing thrusters that fire during just the last split second that kind of pads it a little bit, but it still lands at about 20 to 30 miles an hour. I mean, it's a bump, But they say actually the most jarring thing is whenever the chutes come out, because they're not used to gravity. They've been up there for 6 months, and whenever that chute comes out, it gives you a pretty good pull, and then sometimes depending on the winds, they start spinning a little bit. So, and I couldn't do merry-go-rounds even as a 4-year-old, so I don't think I would last very long on the Soyuz. So it's it's a ride, but they come back in style. I'll put it that way. So it's an interesting thing whenever you go there and you see it in person. You learn how they do it. It's a cool vehicle. So, well, thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Josh.
your time. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's 11:30. Our lunch is here. Even though the TV program is going to be concluding, I want to remind folks that are watching that the NASA Social will continue. You can follow on hashtag on Twitter at #NASA Social if you're so inclined. Follow us on @NASA, and we are also on Facebook and Google+, the account NASA. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will still be on, so tune in. Thanks. I could have checked there. So everybody, okay, so the food's gonna be coming in now. We can let them in. You guys.